Number of years back, 1996 or 7, I forget, I think it was. I lived in Hong Kong. I had this carpet salesman that came to my house. They have the door-to-door carpet salesman. I don't know if you've ever experienced that phenomena. But this guy showed up at my house at 8 a.m. On a Saturday morning. I was barely awake. He rang the doorbell and he said, your colleague so-and-so recommended that I come to your house. And I'm like, why did my colleague do that? Right? And he said, would you like to see some carpets, right? And I said, I figured that the quickest way of getting rid of him was to say yes. He looked like the persistent type, right? So I said, sure, just show me 2, and that's all I'm going to see. All right? By way of background, at that point in time, I was poor, and I needed to save all the money that I could. I'm still poor, and I need to save all the money that I could. But he showed me 2 carpets, one of which was amazingly beautiful. It was a hand-woven Indonesian silk rug. I still remember it. It's etched in my memory. There were too many zeros in the price tag. Right? And so I basically said, this is a wonderful rug, but I don't want it. Right? And my look of delight obviously showed on my face because he looked at me and said, sir, here's what I can do for you. Right? Now, the moment a salesman says that to you, that's sort of the kiss of death. So he said, why don't I leave the rug with you for 2 weeks? And I said, you know what, you've got to keep in mind, this was a Hong Kong Chinese salesman trying to sell a carpet to an Indian marketing professor, so you've got an interesting cultural context right there. And I said, no, let's not do that, because I know what's going to happen, right? I know you're going to come back in 2 weeks, and you're going to either say that there was an implicit understanding that I would buy it, or you're going to point out to some corner and say that it's damaged, so I should keep it. And he said, no, sir, you know what, you can write up whatever you want, I'll sign it for you, and we can agree on that. So I went up to my home office, I typed up this legally sounding document with whereas and thereabout and whatever else, right? And he signed it, and I signed it, and he kept a copy, and I kept a copy. And he left the rug, and he came back in 2 weeks, right? He came back, he knocked on my door again at 8 o'clock in the morning, and he basically asked me if I wanted to keep the rug, and I said no, right? And I was expecting some pushback, but all he said was okay, right? So I'm standing there thinking, this salesman needs some training. I mean, all he says is okay, right? And he said okay, he went into my living room, rolled up the rug, put it on his shoulder, and left, right? And I said, I'm thinking this is easy. I was expecting a lot of resistance, and I followed him to the door to make sure he was leaving, which he did. And I came back. I shut the door. I came back to my living room, and it looked like a disaster. Right? Now, keep in mind, right? I had that rug in my living room for 2 weeks. I had my wife bought in these, throws and a couple of cushions that kind of seemed to match with the rug. Everything seemed to go well with the rug. That the picture of my living room in my head had the rug in it. But now that it was gone, I missed it. Notice what had happened, right? When he came to my house 2 weeks ago, the carpet was a gain for me. My reference point, I didn't have it, right? So he was offering me a carpet for a given price tag. After 2 weeks, he was taking it away, right? So it was the same exact carpet, but 2 weeks ago it was a gain, and now it's a loss.